Good morning, Little Masters, and welcome back to today's Tolkien Times. I'm the Man of the West, also from the Prancing Pony podcast. Let's go ahead and get started with Week 19's Word Nerd Wednesday. Because we don't have enough W's on Word Nerd Wednesday, I decided we'd wind our way to one more word with a W, wizard. Now, as you might imagine, a segment on the word wizard is never late. It arrives precisely when it means to. Over the years of the PPP, we've talked a lot about how Gandalf isn't that kind of wizard. That is, he's not a magic user who casts spells that he's learned from studying the arcane arts. Gandalf doesn't have to rest up so he can cast magic missile again. After all, that's not really what Tolkien had in mind when he called Gandalf a wizard. But what exactly did Tolkien mean? Why did he call him and Saruman, Radagast, and the other Istari wizards? Well, you may know that the Elvish word for these Maiar in old man's clothing was Istari, a word that appears a couple of times in the appendices to The Lord of the Rings, but not once in the text itself. Istari is the plural of Istar, meaning one who knows. That is, somebody who is knowledgeable about, well, stuff, things, the world. It comes from a root is, meaning to know. Now that's from the etymologies found in The Lost Road, Volume 5 of the History of Middle-earth. And it's related to a host of similar words such as ista or istia, meaning knowledge, istiar, meaning scholar or learned man, and so on. Wizard is, of course, an English word made up of wise plus the suffix ard. Now still, Tolkien knew that this word might be problematic, but he chose to use it as a translation of Istar. And in Unfinished Tales, he explains, the translation, though suitable in its relation to wise and other ancient words of knowing, similar to that of Istar in Quenya, is not perhaps happy, since Heron Istarian, or Order of Wizards, was quite distinct from wizards and magicians of later legend. Now, Tolkien made similar comments in several letters, including number 131, as well as 144 and 156, always pointing out that it wasn't exactly a suitable word because of its association with magicians, but also pointing out, in letter number 144, for example, that he tried to distinguish it from other magician terms. So he seems to be trying simultaneously to make us think of wizards in popular folklore, while also at the same time telling us that these wizards are something else entirely. Now, honestly, it's a delicate balancing act that, well, frankly, Tolkien manages to pull off incredibly well. About now is when I would usually talk about how Tolkien is reviving an older usage of the word that's been forgotten, left in the dustbin of history. And it is true that the Oxford English Dictionary gives the simple, no magic required meaning of philosopher or sage, certainly applicable to the Istari, as the very first definition of wizard, with occurrences as early as 1440, and with the word still being used that way until the 1800s. But interestingly, the magician sense of the word is attested as early as 1552, so the association of the word specifically with magicians is almost as old as the word's usage to refer to a simple wise man. And what's even more interesting, the OED adds that even the original definition of philosopher or sage was often contemptuous. The suffix ard, person who does something, originally had a negative connotation of one who does something to excess, or one who does something that is discreditable, as in drunkard, braggart, sluggard, dotard. I think you can think of a couple other words, and so on. In other words, the first people who called someone wise a wizard didn't mean it in a friendly way at all. And I have to wonder if the derogatory nature of the word's etymology was yet another reason why Tolkien thought it was not entirely suitable. Now, folks, that is it for Wizard and for today's Word Nerd Wednesday. But come back next week as we wander the wide, wild, wonderful world of words weekly on Wednesdays. And if there's a word you want to know more about, please let me know by emailing barnleman@theprancingponypodcast.com. Please visit patreon.com/Tolkien Times to learn how you can support the show, get an ad-free feed, a monthly hangout with me, a bonus weekly episode, and a whole lot more. And finally, join me again tomorrow on today's Tolkien Times for Third Age Thursday. If you're watching this on YouTube, please be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Please follow or subscribe on your podcast apps, and follow @Tolkien Times on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Finally, as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.